I tell everybody this. It's the Republicans are using fear by saying he's a communist. Reality is, do you remember Bill de Blasio?
Yeah.
1,000 times more radical than this guy.
I don't think that is entirely incorrect. I don't think that this guy is nearly a danger, or is as dangerous as other people think he is.
He's more dangerous to the Democrats because he's young.
Yeah, and I think that he isn't going to be capable or competent enough to do half of the shit he wants. The concerning part to me is what it says about the constituency. The concerning part to me is what happened to We Will Never Forget. You just elected a mayor that has openly supported jihadi sympathizers, right? Like,
well, yeah, I mean, to a certain extent, he has supported it's very interesting. He supports what he thinks is freedom fighters. And let's be honest, we can point to some, I've really got into it over the last year and a half on this stuff. And it's been very interesting because in the radio world, I go it alone. I'm like, look, I'm a Christian. I don't want to see little babies blown up by IDF guys. And Israel has done some shit that is super fucking shady. And I'm not a fan of that. That being said, yeah, this was a message that, hey, we're sick and tired of old guard. We want new guard. And this guy is talking about affordability. Everybody else is bringing up Palestine. He's talking about, hey, you make 120 grand a year. You and 9 roommates live in a fucking, inside of a porta potty. That's not fair to you. Let me show you how this is going to work. In reality, what's he going to get? He's going to get free buses. So everybody gets to drive around on a free bus, maybe a bodega.
Well, and like I was just saying, like every one of the practices he's putting in is not going to bring down real estate prices whatsoever. If anything, it's going to increase them. And then somebody goes, well, what about all the rich people leaving? And I go, oh yeah, so they're going to sell their place on Central Park North, and you think that the average guy is going to step in there and be able to buy that at a discount?
And you and I both know they're not selling their place.
They're just going to spend
one point to another, and they'll work around the taxes that they try to charge them.
Yeah, they're just going to live for 6 months and 1 day outside of New York City.
Yeah, that's it.
And New York City's probably going to lose 15 to 20% of its tax revenue because of it.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, it is. It is. Like I said, my biggest fear is not Mamdani or any of that people. And I'm not surprised because we see it re-emphasized so consistently. The idiocy and the ignorance of the electorate in this country is just it is terrifying. Think about that. I'm going to hire a self-confessed socialist.
Yeah.
Because I want him to bring down the cost of living.
Yeah. Well, really, it is so. This was a pissed off vote for a lot of people. I get it, but it's very interesting because again, he just came in. All he did was change the playbook. He's like, so Trump says immigrants are the problem. I say it's billionaires. Trump says Biden's the problem. I say it's big corporation. All the playbook's the exact same.
Yeah. It's just changing the names.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's funny, people going, oh God, 9/11. Like, I'm like, you guys do realize, dude, family didn't, we sit here and talk about it. How many people out there, this, dude? We fucking deal with Saudi Arabia all the time.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Palestine didn't fly into the freaking building. Saudi Arabians did, who weren't even in Saudi anymore.
Yeah. No, I listened to this guy talk with 6 different accents.
Yeah.
I listened to
he goes a little Hillary at times.
Well, and some of the people that he's taken pictures with and photographed and what those people have said and some of the people he stood up for, that's my whole point is I'm just looking at New Yorkers and going, I just can't believe you would like it. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway. This is one of those ones where I think people are looking and going, okay, it's just that the whole thing is odd, but the Republicans, this is also a message. They don't get their heads out of their ass. You guys are going to get served across this country.
Yeah, but there's also another dynamic going on. It's like I want to look at him and go, so you elected Trump as a projectile, right? That you're throwing at the powers that be. And then you're deciding 8 months into, like, you know my thoughts on Trump. There's a bunch of shit that I'm like, dude, what are you doing? Why are you saying that? All that kind of stuff. At the same time, I find it incredible that somebody over the space of 8 months decides, no, we're switching gears.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like but I will say this, when you look at what an issue that inflation was coming out of the election, I think it makes the way that Trump has addressed trade stuff even more bizarre. Like, considering how impactful inflation is to the whole debate going on right now on cost of living, the tariff probably should have been the last thing you
The
pulled
last thing.
the trigger on. Yeah,
The
because I
absolute
mean, it
last.
makes things more expensive.
It
And
does.
I don't
And
and I
he's
don't
he's losing
disagree
this
that he
thing.
shouldn't have used them as leverage. I just think that you should have done it after you won the midterms.
Yeah. Yeah. You should have done it too when you brought inflation from, because I don't give a shit what anybody says. It's not down at 3%.
No,
You're
no.
still feeling it. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
And to say that it's down there is ridiculous. And then on the other side of it, you do it so haphazardly, depending on whether or not somebody put up something that you didn't like a Reagan commercial that you're going to add another 10% here and look at all the money. Now you're going to lose in court, which is pretty much, I mean, Polymarket's got it like 90% loss for them.
It doesn't look good.
And now what? You're going to have to pay back all that money.
There's a lot of other avenues that they can go down before they have to do that.
It's just going to be, we're going to forgive you for taxes. We're going to freaking allow you to write all the shit off.
Well, and the other thing about it too, Chad, is that they went to IEPA, which is, that gave them the best chance to win. You know, any of the other forums they go about with tariffs from here on out, it's even a higher bar. So, I mean, if they don't,
unless, of course, Congress does what they were supposed to do, which is what they will never do, because anything Congress does without is a receipt.
They got to own it.
Does it, and guess what? It's Trump. At the end of the day, you have some plausible deniability where you're like, look, it's Trump. At the end, if it goes sideways, where if you put your name on it, you own that shit.
Yep. Yeah. I'll continue to say, that guy is his own biggest obstacle.
He is.
And he just makes shit 8 times harder than it needs to be.
And then, like, perfect example is, dude, we're in the middle of a fucking shutdown. Pardon my French. We are seeing people standing in line. Families are seeing their SNAP benefits go away. And you throw a fucking Great Gatsby party. Did you see that?
No, when was this?
Dude, it was last weekend. And it was the most, you've seen, Great Gatsby.
Yeah.
It was that personified. Women in giant martini things dancing around.
Where's that?
Everything is gold at Mar-a-Lago.
Oh, geez.
Right? Hundreds upon hundreds of wealthy people there, all dressed like, 20s flapper girls, and guys are dressed in their dapper. Everything's gold and opulent. Tone deaf, man. Yeah. So, all right, well, let's have some fun, because everybody loves our shit. All right, here we go. 3, 2, 1.
Let's do it.
It's that time of the week. Talk to our man, Zach Abraham, Chief Investment Officer, Bulwark Capital. He is a friend of the show, sponsor of the show, and quite frankly, the best damn financial guy in the business. All right, first and foremost, man, right out the gate. So $1 trillion for old Elon Musk and his New Deal. That is insane.
It is, unless you put into context, what will Tesla do this year? 150 billion in revenue, 200 billion in revenue, something like that. And they make automobiles, and they're currently, if I remember correctly, their net margins are like 8%. And the company's trading at 6 times revenue with a $1.5 trillion market cap. So, as insane and nuts as the pay package is, I think if you take Elon Musk out of Tesla, I think it's probably within 6 months a $200 to $150 billion company.
I thought this today, Zach, when I was reading about it. I thought they needed to. He figured there was a moment, I think, where he thought, I'm going to throw everything at the window and say, if you guys want me to stick around, you're going to pay me $1 trillion. And that's going to happen, because I'm also looking around going, I got other things that I think are going to be better. right now at this moment in time, and this is a battle I am not going to beat the Chinese at this moment in time. We've done a lot with Tesla, but I've got other things that I think are bigger. And they just finally said, you want $1 trillion? We'll give you $1 trillion, but you can't tweet all day and you can't run around doing 5,000 things. You got to focus a little bit on this.
Yeah, and they have I mean, I'm sure there's clawback provisions or there's some enforcement.
Yeah, there's caveats, there's step ups and stuff, but it's pretty.
Yeah, but one of the things I don't think you can discount, and I'm not making this a prediction, but one of the things I don't think you can discount is the idea of what you just said being 100% true. And I think the $1 trillion pay package is fuel to that fire. I mean, I think it bolsters that opinion that you've got. But I also think with the emergence of AI and the way SpaceX is going, I get the feeling that Tesla's become somewhat boring to him.
Yeah.
It's an automobile company, right? Like it's an automobile company, and he's trying to sell the whole robot idea. I don't think Musk. I think that you're closer to reality. I think you're closer to truth than most people realize. I think that that's the pay package it required for him to stay plugged into Tesla. I think that's the best way to put it. Yeah. And had they not capitulated and given him that, I think he would have been fine moving on because whatever, remember, if he wants to start selling those robots, the Optimus from Tesla, think about the investments that Tesla's put into place globally to give them the global manufacturing base they have. China's going to keep killing them. Okay. They announced good numbers that everybody paid attention to in the short term. And we just sat there and I'm like, guys, that's because the tax exemptions are ending. Okay. Watch what happens right after this. Okay. So next quarter, right after that, we just got numbers out of China. Sales are down 10% again. Meanwhile, sales for all the Chinese-based EVs are still skyrocketing, right? So it's not just that their sales are declining. They're rapidly losing market share. And I think China's kind of the best test ground right now for the global EV market because except in the United States, that's what Tesla's going to be competing against all around the world. Musk is insanely smart. I think he knows that he does not have the ability for several reasons to compete with Tesla, especially on the lower end mass market cars. He just doesn't. He can't compete with their cost of manufacturing. He's been passed up on full self-driving. He's been passed up on battery life and range on these things. And I don't think the pivot, I don't think the pivot to making robots and selling them as quickly as he says, I think the $1 trillion pay package is far more reflective of what it took to keep Elon plugged in at Tesla than it is reflective of his thoughts about where Tesla's going or what they're going to accomplish.
Absolutely. Talking to Zach Abraham, Chief Investment Officer, Boa Capital. One thing I didn't see much talked about today was the job numbers overall, how many jobs we've lost year over year, which is massive. And we have not, and you know this, man, some of those things were jobs that were people overhired during the pandemic and some of these things. That's just a natural shedding of certain things. But there's a lot that isn't. And then you start talking about AI before we even get to the new year. And you start thinking to yourself, just because it's weird because just because people are going to be potentially losing their jobs doesn't mean businesses are going to be losing money. They're just running leaner and meaner.
Yeah. And here's one of my concerns too, is that it seems to me like the real first bit of efficacy, real meaningful efficacy that you're going to get out of AI is the replacement of the rudimentary laborer, right? The person taking your order at McDonald's, the person scanning your card at McDonald's, that kind of thing. And so the savings are going to be really good for the companies that do that, but their core customer base are the very people they employ.
Yeah.
Right. So that's an issue. It's also a revenue and a profitability constraint, right? Meaning, yeah, we can do this and that's going to save us money on labor costs, but it's also going to be oppressive to the same economy that we rely on for revenue. The other thing that I think that so that creates an issue. And one of my fears is kind of the collusion or the intersection point of a lot of these issues meeting together, right? Coalescing together. And my fear is that reduction in the labor force kind of collides with the realization that a lot of this AI investing is not going to be economically viable.
No, just no.
It's
I mean,
just
what's his name?
not.
Michael Burry. Everybody's talking yesterday. He's short basically $1.1 billion. He thinks that the AI is eventually going to pop. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I think, I mean, you and I have been talking about it for a long time. It's going to be around, but what's going to happen is it's going to pop and there's going to be 3 or 4 winners and everybody else is going to be gobbled up or disappear.
Yeah. So here's kind of the framework that we're thinking about it in. So I don't know what the tally is now on total investments into AI infrastructure and stuff like that, but let's say I'm pretty sure it's already north of 2 trillion. Let's say that number's 4 trillion. Okay. You're talking about an investment, a CapEx in a single sector of the economy that's the equivalent of, 22% the entire size of our GDP. Okay. So if you have that kind of capital investment into a single play, what kind of returns and when do you need to start realizing them for that same CapEx investment that everybody's so excited about right now, becoming a black hole for profits and margins in the not too distant future? And one of the things that I think is a tell right now is the fact that the other day was a classic day. Okay, so Google announces that now. I think that just so we own Google. I think when you look at the AI space, I think that Google is one of the companies that is the best positioned to dominate and make a lot of run for a variety of different reasons in the AI space. They're also a company that on their own financial metrics right now is trading at a very reasonable valuation, even with the tech hype and the AI hype. But you looking at that whole landscape, and like I said, when you start thinking about the returns that have to come off of those investments, and then you start thinking about where that's going to come from, meaning, so a lot of the savings that AI is going to create come at the cost of the broader economy in terms of jobs and revenues, right? It's a very mixed bag. Okay, so when you're telling me AI is going to be so profitable, what that means is you're going to see a massive expanse in GDP, right? Because if all it does is steal production from other segments of the economy, you're not going to really see it boost GDP much. You'll see it boost productivity, but at the cost of GDP growth and standard of living and all that kind of stuff. So when you start thinking about 5 years out, let's say the total CapEx ends up being 4 trillion. Over the next 5 years, what types of revenues and profitability do you need to see just so these people can service their debt? So like I was getting to the other day, in order to finance more build out on the AI side of it, Google announces a $30 billion debt offering. Okay. On the news of a $30 billion debt offering, their stock went up 1%, or the equivalent of about $35 billion. So what the market is telling you is that they see $1 of spending on AI being worth $2 in enterprise value. Think about that. Think about what a perversion of finance that is. You take on $30 billion of debt, so your market cap goes up by $38 billion. So $30 billion of debt adds $68 billion to your enterprise value. How that? So what you're saying to me then is that you just made an investment that you have no idea when, how, or how much it will pay out, and the market is booking that as a profit.
That's just
and look, I'm oversimplifying it a little bit, but when your stock goes up $38 billion on the announcement of a $30 billion debt offering, there are all kinds of assumptions that have to be made for that price to be accurate. It means, first of all, we have full faith that you're going to invest every one of those dollars productively. And second of all, it's that your debt or the impairment of your own balance sheet and the increase of debt servicing costs, which does what? Hits your net margins, that all of these things, we're already going to give you 2 for 1 on how we value your company based on each invested dollar. It's nonsensical. If this was a market that was operating properly, you would at very least, you would see multiples holding constant as the market says, look, we're not going to punish you for this spend, but we're also not going to reward you. We got to see how it plays out, right? I'm not saying their multiples should be collapsing, but as you're taking on unparalleled levels of debt for record, CapEx spending cycle that we've never even seen the likes of, booking all of that immediately as profit, like it's all productive, winning investment. I don't know. I think that has a very, as close to zero chance of playing out that way of anything I've ever seen. Now, clearly some of these investments are going to be huge winners.
Yeah.
The majority of them won't be. That's just the way this works. And when you see the way the market is treating it, that's why I think it's a ridiculous argument to ask, is it a bubble? In AI, of course it is. The question really becomes how pernicious and how deep and how impactful is that bubble? And unfortunately, we're not going to know that until we see it play out. But here's the other thing that freaks me out, Chad. If you think that we are on top of it in AI and you think that all of this spending is going to be warranted and is going to be fruitful and going to be productive and all that kind of stuff, if you think Silicon Valley is doing the right thing, you simultaneously think everybody in China is not.
Yes.
And there are a lot of really smart people in China. And truth be told, when it comes to manufacturing and things like that, they've been kicking our ass for a while, right? There's something that that you learn in investing is be very, very careful assuming that your counterparty is an idiot.
Oh,
right?
Yeah. Don't do that.
Right. If there's don't assume the guy you're buying that asset from is an idiot. He's owned it longer than you have.
Yeah.
Right. So he's selling it for a reason. There is a reason China's CapEx in AI is nothing like ours. Now, I'm not saying I have full confidence they're right and I know we're wrong. What I'm saying is there's a lot of arrogance I see right now being deployed in Silicon Valley toward this AI spend. There's a lot of arrogance I see in investors right now, assuming that we're right on it. And there are a lot of really smart engineers in China that don't think this is the right way to go about it. And I that concerns me. That concerns me.
Talking to Zach Abraham, Chief Investment Officer, Bullet Capital. What's his name from NVIDIA said, China's going to win the AI battle. Came out yesterday. I mean, this is NVIDIA. And he's like, oh, yeah, because they have smaller regulations and they're playing to win, essentially. We're playing to win, but we're also playing to grow wealth.
Yeah, and I think that that's become an impingement, right? I think that in the last 40 years, we have made the classic mistake. We talk about it in sports all the time, and I talk to my football team about this all the time. Guys, bums stare at the scoreboard and bums think about what happens when they win. Champions focus on the inputs, right? All we care about is how do we do our job? How do we do it better? We let the outcomes take care of themselves, right? At some point in the last 40 years, America winning became all about the end result, right? All about the check, all about how much we make rather than focusing on the inputs, right? Do the right things, stay competitive, grind. And look, there's still plenty of people in America that believe in that. I'm just talking about culturally. And I think there's a lot more of that attitude right now in emerging markets in general. And it shouldn't be surprising to everybody. Hunger is a real thing, right?
Yeah.
People are hungry. We've been kicking the hell out of the world for the longest cycle in human history, 15-year up cycle while the rest of the world went sideways. Of course, we're a little complacent. Of course, we're a little bit out over our skis. Of course, we're a little bit overconfident. Anybody in our position would be. It's the longest, biggest economic expanse in U.S. history that's led to the highest profit margins and the highest cash balances in U.S. history. And I think it's leading to some of the most reckless CapEx spending in U.S. history. And if you look at the arc of financial history, that's how it always works, right? Success breeds overconfidence. Overconfidence breeds misallocation of capital. Misallocation of capital brings lower returns. Lower returns create a recession, which creates hard times. We learn the lessons we were supposed to learn, and then we reboot and start over again. That appears to me what's going on now. Like you said, AI is going to be a huge deal. It's going to be incredibly disruptive. There are going to be incredible investment opportunities that will still come that are out there right now that will come to the fore. I'm just saying, generally speaking, when you see the most successful businesses in the history of humankind with the largest stacks of cash in the history of humankind competing at a level and spending in a CapEx cycle, the likes of which we've never seen, And then you ask yourself, were we in a bubble? I just think it's the stupidest question in the world to ask.
Yeah.
If you have the biggest pockets in the world bidding on the same stuff, yes, you have a bubble by definition, right? So the reason I say that is these guys are consciously spending on these assets that they know are not going to be economically viable anytime in the near future. The reason they're willing to do it is if that asset ends up being productive or worthwhile in the AI space, the cost over the long run of not owning that asset is far more than the cost of the misallocation of capital. Where I think investors are missing it is that might be the long-term correct move for the company. But oftentimes those moves create really bad outcomes for investors over 10 and 15-year periods of time, i.e. Microsoft from 2002 to 2012.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Talking to Zach Abraham, Chief Investment Officer, Bulwark Capital. If we continue with the shutdown and we get through, and it looks like we're going to go through Thanksgiving, hopefully, God willing, it doesn't happen, but should that happen, there's going to be some repercussions of a slowdown, especially in the holiday season, not just from the travel. What does that do for us heading into Christmas? I mean, let's say we get it done by December 1st. What does that look like? Because there's a lot of makeup there, and that's a fourth quarter we're probably going to miss at the time when most people spend most of their money because it's the holiday season.
I kind of put this one in the same category, at least to me, as the nuclear option as it relates to the filibuster. Meaning, every time, it's so funny because every time we have a government shutdown or we have an extension of the debt ceiling, everybody unanimously acts like it's the first time we've ever done it.
Yeah.
Right? We've seen multiple. What have we seen? Probably like 5 government shutdowns in the last 10 to 12 years.
Yeah, we've seen it. We've seen a lot. The last 2 were both on Trump, and this one's the longest. And the one before this one was 2019 or whatever that was.
Yeah.
That was 35 days, I think.
Yeah. How many of those do you recall getting blamed on Democrats? Well, I don't recall any of them being blamed on Democrats.
No, I don't really recall any of them being blamed on. I don't even remember what the last one was. At this point in time, it's all the same because they just kick the can down the road.
Yeah, yeah. And every single time, because, we know what the state of the media is, it's going to get, my point is, I'm not saying that there's never a reason to I'm forgetting the word. I'm not saying there's never a reason to do these actions or take these actions. But what I do think is that Republicans all too often forget the cost and the price of these actions. And look, and the reason I bring that up with the nuclear option and getting rid of the filibuster, which Trump is urging the Senate to do right now, is I understand why people want to do that. I've heard the argument, hey, we've only got 3 years of Trump left. We might lose control in the midterms. We got to pound things through right now. Here's the problem, guys. You got to remember this. Everything we pass, the minute they take back the White House and Congress, they undo it. Because they don't need a 60% vote either.
No.
Right? And so then what you get, and I actually think that this is a fairly benign outcome, then what you get at the very least is incredible policy volatility.
You're going to get
right? Meaning
from left to right, and only the extremes will dominate conversations.
Yep. And to me, and like I said, it's just like the filibuster where I sit there and I go, okay, that fixes the problem right now. What about tomorrow? Yeah. What about tomorrow? Because that same gun gets you're loading that gun for them to use at you. And like I said, at the very least, you're going to think, and well, not only that, but they're going for the fait accompli in so many of these situations, right? The left is, if you give them 4 years without a filibuster in place, you may not have anything left to save after that.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm looking at both these things going, hey guys, I don't care whose fault the shutdown is. How many times you have to go through this to realize you're going to wear it? They're not going to wear it. Okay. Doesn't matter if it's fair or not. That's the way it goes down. Also, as it comes to the filibuster, not a good idea. Don't do it.
No, don't do it. Don't do it. Zach Abraham, Chief Investment Officer, Bulwark Capital. People want to reach out to you. They want to come to your preview. What do they do?
Easy to find, man. Go to bulwarkcapitalmanagement.com, know your risk radio, or know your risk podcast.com. Just shoot us an email. Go to bulwarkcapitalmanagement.com, put your information into the prompt. We'll sign you up for the next, roadshow that we're doing, and pretty simple, man. Simple
Sounds
process,
good,
not
man.
hard to find.
Sounds good, man. Good doing it again. As always, we'll do it next week.
All right, sounds good, man. Thanks for having me.
Investment advisory services offered through Trek Financial LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor. The opinions expressed in this program are for general informational purposes only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual or on any specific security. Any references to performance of securities are thought to be materially accurate, and actual performance may differ. Investments involve risk and are not guaranteed. Past performance doesn't guarantee future results. Trek 24308.